Good evening, everybody, and welcome to, late arrival. Welcome to the AGM of the Old Nottinghamian Society. As you can probably see, the meeting is being live streamed. So we have hopefully one or two of our members who are watching from places a long way away and some closer than that. Our apologies from our secretary, who's not able to be here this evening. He's got a nasty cold, but he hopefully is watching the live stream. So Julian, you're welcome if he's here. And for those people who are live streaming, there is a facility to make comments or ask questions and vote within the sort of YouTube stream. So please register your votes by typing for, against, or abstain where we need a vote. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence, and apparently, well, when this was written, 12 members had apologised, but I understand it's now 17. Unfortunately, there's a lot of colds going around. Item 2 is the minutes of the annual general meeting held on the 17th of November 2022. Copies have been circulated to everybody, and hopefully they're okay. Does anybody have any comments or matters arising from them? Okay, that's fine, Tony. So, does the meeting approve the minutes as a true and accurate record? All those in favour? Any against? No. Duly passed. They'll be signed later. There are no matters arising, so we now move on to item 3, which is the Treasurer's accounts and report for the year 30th of June 2023. Treasurer Robin.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all here this evening. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to present the full accounts for the Society due to some system changes at Brewin Dolphin, who's our investment manager. The annual tax report, which we usually get around August time, is still not available for our year ended 30th of June 2023. This has meant that we're currently unable to assess our tax position and cannot complete the accounts at this time. I have chased Brewin Dolphin repeatedly and have been told that the report will reach us eventually, but there is nothing that can be done to expedite the information. However, I'm advised that the introduction of the new system will provide the information much quicker in the future, and that this year is purely a one-off issue, and let's hope that's the case. Therefore, I'm going to supply a brief synopsis of the financial transactions for the year. We finally had the opportunity to enjoy the 2020 President's Dinner in the Senate Chamber of the Trent Building at the University of Nottingham on the 1st of April 2023. It was a great evening, thoroughly enjoyed by the 70 people who attended. We kept the ticket price low and the expected loss down to £472. Matthew Shipway made a fine job of organising the Oxford dinner at Balliol College. Another great evening ensued into the early hours, with large quantities of Balliol Blue cocktails being consumed by a few guests. Dave. A small loss of £154 was made on the event, compared to 166 in 2022. In terms of income for the year, we received £4,300 from our investment with Brewin Dolphin. As most of you will know, this is the prime source of income for the Society, and the increase in interest rates has boosted this income from £3,641 last year. We were also lucky enough to receive a legacy of £1,000 from ON Colin McKay, who passed away in 2019. Colin was a structural engineer, and for those who fancy a trip up north, an example of his work may be found at the very top of Scotland in the Strathnavor Museum, which promotes the story of Clan Mackay across the globe. High on the wall in the Mackay room, you will see a large three-dimensional motto of the Mackay clan, which was made and donated to the museum by Colin. We are very grateful to Colin and his family for this very generous donation. At the last AGM, we voted to increase our donation to the Old Nottinghamians War Memorial Trust from £2,000 to £3,000, and this amount was paid over in January 2023. There has been no applications to the Old Nottinghamian Society Quincentenary Fund this year. Consequently, the committee is proposing that we make a further grant of £3,000 to the Trust once again. Finally, I would like to report that the Society's finances remain robust. The bank balance at the year end was £5,929 compared to £4,034 at 30th of June 2022. The market value of our Brewin Dolphin portfolio at the year end was £182,712 compared to £180,374 back in June 2022. We currently have £8,293 cash in the bank and investments currently worth £177,774. So the Society remains in good financial health. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Are there any questions of the Treasurer? That's a voting on later, Tony. Yep. It's on the agenda. Right, if there's no more questions, then we don't have to vote to approve the accounts because we haven't got any, so that will be deferred. Not quite sure how we deal with it, but we'll deal with it somehow. Our next item is a report from the headmaster on the activities of the school. So could I ask Kevin, please, to present his report?
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to update the Society on the activities of the school over the past year. I do so at a time when independent education is under more threat than it's ever been. An incoming Labour government, which looks increasingly likely, will add 20% VAT to school fees and also take away our business rates relief. So there's no doubt at all that there are heavy storms on the way. We estimate that this will have a significant impact on pupil numbers, but we're pleased that unlike some of our local competitors, we're facing all this with our pupil numbers really high at the moment and with schools' finances in excellent shape. There is, though, likely to be pain ahead in the coming months. This is a real and genuine threat, and there is no doubt that the school will change in the coming years. Support from our wider community will be very much needed. So moving on to some of the achievements of the past year, we had another good summer with our exam results, particularly at GCSE level, and again our results are better than all of our local competition. We had another really busy summer of work at the school, with the focus being on converting the White House at the corner of Arboretum Street and Balmoral Road into our Wellbeing Centre. This opened just a couple of weeks ago and now houses the school nurse and counsellors and will be the hub for a huge programme of work to support the well-being of children in the school. As we've become stronger and stronger academically, it's become ever more important to ensure that students and staff are able to cope with the pressures of school life. The Wellbeing Centre is designed to help us have a real focus on that area and bring together our counselling, our learning support, our medical support, and much pastoral work into one setting. There's a quiet space known as the Oasis Room where children can go during the day just for some time to themselves. I really want the school to champion the cause of mental health. All of us have mental health, just as we have physical health, and this inevitably fluctuates. We want to equip children with the skills to manage their mental health and to build resilience. I want us to be as well known for our care for individual students as we are for our academic success. Some of the children in the school have really significant challenges in their lives, and we need to be a constant source of support for them, and employing over 250 staff, we also have that same duty of care to all of them. We've also had the challenge of undertaking a survey into the RAC concrete, which has been much in the news. You may have heard about it. We only had one building, the music block, which had some of this material in it, and I'm pleased to report that all the necessary repairs have now taken place, although we were without the building for the first part of the summer term. This summer also saw us putting into place further new windows across the school as part of our desire to run the business of the school in the most energy efficient way. The school had a very busy sporting summer with the netball team heading to Barbados and the rugby team playing a series of fixtures in Canada. And the hockey team will be travelling to Malaysia next summer in our first major overseas tour in that sport. And one or two live results from today. We beat the girls' high school at netball today, which is a good. We're always very pleased to beat them. And our under-16 girls hockey team have reached the national finals, and our first 15 rugby have reached the national final that they're in the competition they're in. So, sorry, the regional final. We've also run a significant project to restate the school's values, and so our new set of values, developed in conjunction with the students themselves, are excellence, individuality, respect, empathy, and curiosity. We believe that these define who we are as a school, and students who have exemplified these values can now win awards for doing so. Some of you will be pleased to hear that Maples won the Wheeler Cup again. They're on a long streak of victories at the moment. So, is there only one of you that's pleased about that? Okay, sorry, 2. Grand total of 2, that's good. The rest of you are disappointed by that news, I'm sorry. The Development Office continues to play a crucial role in building and maintaining valuable relationships with the Old Nottinghamian community, as well as securing much needed funds to sustain the school's bursary programme. And we're particularly grateful to Gary and to David Weil for their support of this and all of our work. This enabled us to secure funds of over 240,000 over the past 12 months, including a number of legacies. We've also had a whole series of Old Nottinghamian events, sports events in rugby, cross country and netball, which will take place again in December. And we've held 5 reunions, attracting over 100 ONs. I'm particularly delighted to welcome back some of the oldest members of the ON community, the class of 1945 to 55. This generation of ONs remember the army being stationed at the school during the Second World War. We've welcomed back a good number of ONs, young and old, to the school. And I was particularly pleased this last week to welcome David Lippman back to the school. David was a stalwart of these meetings over a number of years, so it was particularly good to see him in school last week. We also celebrated 150 years of cricket, and thank you to Simon Jackson for his work in that and that very impressive catch that you got, Simon. Well, we'll record that for posterity in a minute. And we're also grateful to Simon Bromwich, who hosted a London Lawyers event. We held our inaugural donor appreciation event celebrating the impact of the combined efforts and thanking the donors for their part in ensuring their commitment to the future of the school. And we've had a good number of ONs also support our careers programme. We're also excited to share details relating to a digital archive, a project which I initially discussed with Peter Kendrick, who was an ON from 1941 to 48. He and I shared the view that stories, your stories, are a valuable part of the school's history. And so we're gradually collecting those digitally and trying to make sure that those sorts of stories are kept for the future. And finally, just a few events that we've got coming up, which you're very welcome to attend. The first is the Carol service at St Mary's Church on the 19th of December. We also have the ON London dinner on the 26th of January next year. And then there are regional dinners in places such as Cambridge, Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds, Edinburgh, Newcastle, Bristol and Birmingham. And 2 major reunions, the class of 1974 and the class of 1994. So clearly our vibrant community in its widest sense continues to provide a sense of belonging with shared purpose, as well as mutual support, which results in a richer and more fulfilling experience. And it really is so nice to have lunch with so many of the visitors that come to the school. They really do, have so many fond memories of the school, and it's really nice to be able to welcome them back. So in closing, I wish your president and the society well, and thank the society very warmly for its continued support of the War Memorial Fund. This fund helps to provide the cost of uniform for those children in the school on full bursaries, and the support is very much appreciated by those who receive it. So thank you for your kind donations to that. Thank you very much.
Any questions of Kevin? No? Thank you, Phil. All right. Thank you very much, Kevin. Next item is the General Committee report on the proceedings of the Society in 2022-23, which is down to me. So I'm delighted to present my first report as President. The year had begun back in November 2022 with good news, as the newly revived working relationship between the Society and the school had just been announced to all Nottinghamians, and we all look forward to with optimism to a successful period of cooperation. We're all grateful to past President Robert Wood and to the Headmaster Kevin Fear for driving this forward and reaching an agreement which would benefit all. I'd also like to thank Kevin for attending today and delivering his report. It's good to hear that the school is in a healthy position and well prepared to face the potential issues that the future may bring. On behalf of all the members of the Old Nottinghamian Society, I congratulate the Headmaster and his team for another successful year for Nottingham High School and wish the school similar success in 2024 and beyond. The Old Nottinghamian Society is a fellowship of former pupils, staff and employees and governors of Nottingham High School, originally formed with the object of promoting fellowship among the members and a general interest in the school. We continue to encourage fellowship among our members through the effective and expanding use of social media, our website and email communications. Once again, we held 3 sociable lunches at Beeston Fields Golf Club in January, May and September. Numbers remained lower than those achieved pre-COVID, but were sufficient to generate a convivial atmosphere, and it's nice to see the occasional first-timer joining with our core of regulars. It was a pleasure to welcome the Headmaster, Deputy Head Paul Spedding, Kamala, Sam and Deborah to one or more lunches, not forgetting, of course, the ever-present Gary Thomas with his camera. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Nigel Dunn, Michelle Foster and Julian Bauer for organising the lunches on behalf of the Society, and we look forward to welcoming members and their guests to the Society's lunches in 2024. Details of the next lunch to be held on Thursday, the 18th of January, will be circulated before Christmas. As the Treasurer has already mentioned, after 3 cancellations due to COVID, we were pleased to finally hold our annual dinner on the April the 1st in the Senate chamber at the University of Nottingham. Although the numbers were down on what they might have been had Lord Ken Clarke been the guest speaker, I hope those who did come enjoyed hearing from the Headmaster and your President, along with the company of fellow ONs and guests. Saturday, 9th of March 2024 is the date of our next dinner, which will be held at the school, and our dinner secretary Ian Hardiker is once again busy making all the arrangements and hoping to secure an equally entertaining speaker. We thank him for his efforts, and further details of the dinner will be advertised on the Society's Facebook pages and on the website, and also, I believe, in the school newsletter fairly soon as arrangements have been finalised. Thanks are due, and again I'm repeating what the Treasurer has already said, to Matthew Shipway, the committee's Oxford University representative, for organising what I believe was a most enjoyable Oxford dinner at Balliol College in February. My personal thanks go to Deputy President Dave Nettleton and other committee members for joining the undergraduates on the evening after family commitments prevented me from making the trip. I hope to be there in February 2024, date and venue to be announced. Dave has also kept the Early Doors group going on the last Thursday of every month via Zoom, and Secretary Julian Bauer organised a very successful live Christmas gig at the Old Cold Store in aid of the Hayward House Palliative Care Centre at the City Hospital. For this year, 17th of December is the date on which Julian has arranged a live stream event starring MZE in aid of Nottingham Hospital's Arts programme. 16 ONs attended a successful Curry Club evening on June the 10th in London, ably organised by Phil Turton and George Aspinall, and 14 attended a meal in Birmingham last November with Peter Procopa in the organising seat. A third event planned for Aberdeen in October by Andy Murdy had to be postponed, unfortunately, due to the red weather warning in force on the day. The Society's affiliated sporting and other bodies all continued with full programmes this year, and we'll hear more of them later. The Society continues to use its funds to support the good causes chosen by our members. The War Memorial Trust funds are used to provide additional financial support to pupils who would otherwise be unable to benefit from the many opportunities gained from attending the school. and I'm pleased that with your approval and support, the Society can continue to contribute on an annual basis to this very worthwhile cause. At this point, I'd like to pay tribute to two ONs who passed away since our last AGM. Michael Rowan was a popular life president of the ON Golf Society and also a former governor of the school. And David Lovett served for many years as a secretary of the Dame Agnes Mellors Lodge. Both will be sorely missed. We also celebrated the life of past President Brian Ford at a number of events, including the presentation by the Ford family of a new clock at Adbolton in July and a memorial at Trent Bridge last week, which I was delighted to attend with many other ONs on behalf of the Society. Finally, I must take this opportunity to thank all the Society's officers and committee members, both elected and co-opted, for their hard work communicating with the membership, looking after the finances and organising the Society's sporting and social events over the past 12 months. I'd particularly like to thank Ian Cooper, Sue Woollett and Matthew Shipway, who are stepping down this year, for their years of service on the committee. Thank you. Any questions of the General Committee report? Good. Thank you. So I think we just have to have a vote to approve the General Committee report. So all those in favour, please. Any against? Thank you very much. I'm assuming that online they're all voting yes. Let me know if any don't. Right, the next item on the agenda is the election of the Secretary, General Committee members and Honorary Independent Examiner. The Secretary, Julian Bower, and General Committee members Ian Cooper and Chris Ford are due to retire by rotation at this meeting. Ian Cooper is stepping down, along with co-opted member Sue Woollett, both after 7 years service on the committee. We need to give a vote of thanks to them, although I've already done it in the general report. The following candidates were nominated and have been duly elected. Re-elected Secretary for 2023 to 25, Julian Bower. Re-elected to the General Committee for 2023 to 26, Chris Ford. Elected to the General Committee for 2023-26, Drew Dennis. Re-elected Honorary Independent Examiner for 2023-24, Richard Bonello. That completes the elections or non-elections. Item 7 is the reports from the affiliated bodies. First is the ON Society Sports and Social Club. John, do you have a report?
Right. With the disruption of the COVID period, now a distant memory, it is with relief that I can report it has been a quiet and fairly routine year for ground management. This has allowed us to undertake some ongoing small repair and maintenance work with no major building or repair work needed. The rugby season passed uneventfully, but a number of cricket fixtures were lost to late cancellations, with away teams unable to raise a team. It seems that this is sadly commonplace now, with many sports clubs struggling to get teams together. Unfortunately, the last-minute nature of the cancellations meant that the groundsman had already spent time and effort preparing the ground. A more recent issue brought to the attention of the committee has been the advent of female referees, requiring the provision of separate changing and showering facilities. This is currently being addressed. We're in continuing discussions with Serco, the tenants who run the water sports centre over there, concerning access and car parking after their installation of ANPR on the gate to the water sports centre. This has implications for our tenants, Desperate Measures and Knott's Anglers, who rent the riverbank from us. We continue to attract a large range of external bookings, the income from which supports repairs and improvements, both routine and emergencies. The recent wide-scale flooding, which has always affected the ground badly, meant the cancellation of the annual NHS Scouts Group bonfire night celebrations. We can do nothing about where we sit relative to the floodplain, but the good work done before and after by our groundsmen is the reason why the pitch seems to have recovered so well. Other storm damage earlier in the year caused the loss of 2 very large trees at the edge of the ground, which had to be felled at a cost of £800 to the club, and they posed a danger to the public. On a more positive note, we gained a splendid new clock for the pavilion, which can be seen from even the outer reaches of the boundary. And as far as Arnold, as far as I'm concerned, it's enormous. This was given to the club by the family of Brian Ford, who sadly died last year, and who himself gave so much time to the club. My thanks as always go to Dave Vick staff, who continues to keep the ground and clubhouse in a very good condition, and also to the other members of the Ground Management Committee, who continue to provide welcome support and advice. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Nottinghamians Rugby Club. Kareem, are you doing this?
Evening all. So Nottinghamians Rugby Club season 22-23. So before I get into the social aspects of rugby, which of course is a highlight, I must go through the rugby bits first. In what was a successful and enjoyable season, things to note include huge wins against Ollerton, Cleethorpes and North Hykeham, where we not only saw, but in some cases you could actually hear the will of the man and his team leave them on the pitch. Some games were far closer and results swung both ways, both for and against us. Hamians notched up wins both home and away against Worksop, Ollerton, and at Bolton also saw a breathtaking 47-47 draw with local team Paviers. Notably, we took the scalpers Southall, who went a good time previously unbeaten, but the mighty Purple Rain pulled up and turned them over in their own fortress, sending a strong message of intent out to the league that day. A few beers and a lively singing post-game were definitely enjoyed that day. Whilst the results went for us and against us on the pitch, the hard work, as ever, took place off it. The rugby committee, who themselves dedicate significant time and effort, would like to thank the work and support of players, members, friends, family and supporters. The club would also like to thank the continued support of Ed Bolton's grounds committee, who facilitate and manage a venue, the superb venue. And as ever, we are grateful for the dedication and expertise Dave Bickerstaff, who delivers weather-dependent playing surface that is one of the best in the district. This season was the last under the captaincy of James Gisborne, who guided the club through the unprecedented COVID years, and we thank him for his considerable commitment to the club and also its members. He passed the honour of captain to James Hood, who will be flanked by 2 vice-captains in the way of George Sisson and Aidan Butler. We do look forward to welcoming a ON to the position of captain once again, which unfortunately has not been seen for some years now. For this to happen, we would like to engage more players from the high school. We have just 1.5 regular players who have strutted along Waverley Mount during their school years. And we would like to have a stronger connection with the school when it comes to players continuing their rugby at adult level, and would welcome any thoughts or opportunities to help us develop this in the future. And we can once again welcome an OM into the lead role. Recruitment, retention and availability continue to be the toughest aspects of rugby in the modern world at our local level. The RFU seemingly making a poorly thought out and badly communicated changes to the laws, particularly around tackle height. This tough aspect is set to get even harder for us. We managed to retire Rob Thornton, affectionately known as Gollum, in what feels like a playing career that has gone on for over 150 years. A Hamians legend that has been ordered out the house most Saturdays by his loving wife for more years than he would care to remember. He continues his role as fixture secretary and joins the sidelines, saying the things were much better in his day, which of course they weren't. Next year's challenges will undoubtedly be to settle into playing under the new laws and inevitably having a squad available for selection each week. On to the real highlights, which of course are the social elements. Christmas carol singing on the last Thursday before Santa pops down the chimney continues to be an unmissable occasion. A route taken in a number of fine drinking establishments is taken in return for the kind hospitality. We gift them with a poorly sung carol and the usual Hamians charm. We often have folks tag along with our party to join in the fun, meaning that Friday morning is inevitably a pretty tough one. We continue to donate a win to Hammond's Phoenix cricket team in the, that is played each year in the memory of Martin Wynne-Jones. This year we had some actual cricketers playing and saw a closer game in the first part, which with some of the best fielding, agreed? Yeah. Some of the best fielding you could hope for the Hamians. I was called home urgently, unfortunately, just before the swap over, fielding to batting. We were looking good up until the point that we had to bat and I had to leave. That proved to be the beginning of the end. So once again, Jonathan, well done. We also welcomed Chris Ford and family down to Ad Bolton a number of times where we paid our respects and celebrated the life and the impact of his late father, Brian. Hamians versus Phoenix Cricket, as well as honouring Martin Wynne-Jones. Also saw Chris introduce an award in Brian's honour, gifted to the player of the match, who according to Chris, who is now going to be known as Chris It's a Free Bar Ford, he would choose his player of the match. And we thank Chris and his family again for their hospitality, generosity, and at times okay umpiring. My wife Angie and Nikki organised the first Hamians Christmas Children's Party, the Santa making a starring appearance, which created some real magic for our youngest family members and friends of the club. This will hopefully continue until they can themselves make proper use of the bar and no doubt still believe in the magic of Santa. We had our international tour in Lloret de Mar in Spain and welcomed almost 25 tourists, 5 of which were tour virgins. And although this is always a good sign of new blood, it unfortunately traumatizes those poor souls forever. What happens on tour, of course, as many will know, stays on tour. But I can say, never eat tins with no labels on. If you're a tour virgin, you cannot trust anyone. And some things in life can't be forgotten or unseen, even if you wanted them to be. We look forward to next season and know that the challenges will be ever present. So please join us for a game or two and know that your support is of huge value to us. There is also talk of a Rugby World Cup happening just over the English Channel, where my money is on the Aussies rather pathetically choking in the pool and England getting to the semi-finals. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Next one is the Golf Society, which is down to me, of course. The Golf Society continues to struggle a little bit to attract new players. And like last year, we only managed to hold 3 events in 2023. A group of 12 players contested the Pentecost Cup in June at Beeston Fields Golf Club, and Doug Stewart, a first-time participant, won the cup. Carl Smith won the Wild and Wayward Cup for higher handicap players for the second time in 4 years. In July, after 3 cancellations due to COVID and hot weather, we resumed our annual match against Old Uppinghamians, this time at Luffenham Heath, but unfortunately were well beaten on their turf. Our final event of the year was the 16th annual match against Old Loughburians at Hollingwell in October, where we managed to retain the 2 trophies that we won last year by halving the match 2 apiece. Moving away from events for us mere mortal golfers, our scratch team did particularly well in the Grafton Morris Trophy this year, qualifying for the finals by finishing 3rd of 18 schools in the East Midlands region and then reaching the last 8 in the finals in Norfolk, which is certainly the best result I can remember. Congratulations to Chris Hurrell and his team, who lost their quarter-final to the eventual runners-up Millfield School and finished amongst the best 8 teams from the 107 that entered the competition from across the UK. Unfortunately, the traditional match against the school, normally held in May at Woollerton Park, has not been played since before COVID, but I will continue to liaise with the school to see if there's enough interest to see it revived. We will also happily continue our support for the school if they decide to hold their own golf days in the future, offering whatever assistance we can. And that's my report. Next, we have the Rifle Club. Doug?
Hello, Julian. As I know that obviously the Phoenix report's coming after us, and I've been warned it's 14 pages, so I agreed with Julian to keep mine to about 14 sentences. So we'll try and get through that one. So the Owens Rifle Club has had a relatively quiet year this year. For those that actually listened to me last year, we merged with the Notts and Derby Target Rifle Club, so that's been the one big bit of excitement for us. But that's all gone fairly well. We did have a significant increase in the medals won from county competitions this year, but that's mostly because the Notts Rifle Association decided to start issuing medals for second and third place. So that's why we went up. If it had been first, we would have been stuck for the entire year. The new Epsom side of the club's seen an increase in membership along with its first junior member in living history. At the high school, the MOD licence doesn't allow us to have under 18s shoot, but the Epsom range doesn't care about that. So we brought on our first junior. So that's going rather well. And we've also seen a number of different calibers and firearms being shot by members. Again, the high school range is limited to Prone 22, but Epsom isn't. So we've had all sorts of fun and exciting things. None of this has turned into any competitions yet, but it has been quite a laugh. So that's been good. Blah, blah, blah. See, I talk about these things and then forgot to read what I'm actually supposed to be putting down. Yes, we're hoping to build on our success of the next 12 months. The first 4 years, a merged club has been relatively painless. There have been a few niggles, but they've been suitably addressed by the committee. Last year, I told you all about a threat of a lead ban as the government desperately tried to take guns out of the hands of honest civilians. That has tweaked around a little bit. So there's another lead consultation going through at the moment, but it's mostly just for shotgun ammunition, so we can save the ducks from eating lead. And they seem to have realised that as most shooters shoot for about 70 years, the lead poisoning of shooters might not be the problem. But we will always watch this carefully because, you know, they'll get us one way or another. Apart from that, as always, I would like to thank the school and the MOD for the kind use of their range, which is still one of the best Prone 22 ranges in the county. And if anyone is interested in joining the club or even just coming down and having a go, then please get in contact with me either directly or through the society, and we would love to have you. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Next one is the tennis section, which I understand Robin is doing.
Yeah, Old Nottinghamians tennis section. Again, conscious of Jonathan's report coming up. It's a short one. The annual match, Old Nottinghamians versus the school, took place at Valley Road on Founders Day, Saturday, 17th of June. Played on the new courts by the pavilion with netball posts removed. A most enjoyable afternoon was had by all. The school team, led by Heidi Bray, unfortunately Stuart Whitehead had a broken ankle apparently, congratulated the ONs who won the tennis 6 matches to 3. The ONs team were Alex Corman from 91 to 2001 at the school, Rachel Albee 2018 to 2020, Peter Gauntley 1963 to 1970, Gareth Dunn 1979 to 1989, Malcolm Superior 1991 to 2016, and Rick Britton 1961 to 71, who was the captain. The school had a very strong first pair, and the team represented the last 3 years at the school, which made for an interesting mix. After the match, the players adjourned for tea and biscuits provided by the school. Heidi presented Rick with the annual trophy, and Rick thanked Heidi, the school team, and the Valley Road staff for their courtesy in hosting the event. That's the end of the report.
Thank you for your brevity, Mr. Treasurer. Next, we have the Old Nottinghamians Phoenix Cricket Club. Jonathan.
It's interesting. There was 3 cheers, 2 groans. Right. The Old Nottinghamians Phoenix Cricket 11 match reports 2023. The 2023 season for your Phoenix 11 takes me back some 40 years when I saw the headlines of an end-of-year report stating must do better and can do better. That was in the handwriting of the infamous Dr. Dennis Whitcomb, OBE. This was a season of, ooh, so close, but not quite, with 3 of our matches really kicking us up the backside. Right, the reports. Chapter 1. The good news is that we have retained both the Martin Wynne-Jones Trophy for our win over the athletic stalwarts of the Hamians, and we've also the Alan Wheelhouse Trophy that was keenly contested against the Nottinghamshire Law Society. I've written here both cups are back in the trophy cabinet at Bolton Lane where they belong. I wish we'd noticed this evening one of them is missing. So if anybody knows where that is, if we could have the Alan Wheelhouse Trophy back, please, for next year. I'm very pleased to have persuaded 33 different gentlemen to cross over the white line to represent your Phoenix 11 this year. But that's 33 different players in only 5 matches. Perhaps that was our problem, the lack of consistent hardcore at the centre of the team. But the post-match chit-chat with either a pizza slice in one hand and a chilled pint in the other has been very rewarding and confirms that we are engaging with many to spread the word of the ON's Phoenix 11. Our first match of the season was an introduction on how to play cricket from our toughest opponents of the season, the Robin Hood 11, who posted a score of 133 and proceeded to skittle us out for only 83. Our second challenge was in the form of the Nottinghamshire Law Society. And the question on everyone's lips at the start of the match, could the Alan Wheelhouse Memorial Trophy be wrestled from the Nottinghamshire lawyers? With 8 of their wickets being taken in a fierce attack of only 7 overs, the legal bods were kept to a meagre score of only 72 runs, a target that should be knocked off with aplomb. Tracy Pearl was playing his first ON match at Bolton Lane for 30 years, and it's always good to bring back the ONs into the fold. With the likes of Robin Fisher and Chris Padwick in our lineup, it was important for me to move them up the order from their usual positions of 10 and 11 to give them time to loosen their shoulders and to swing the bat with plenty of overs in front of them. And as these two ON characters strutted onto the pitch with an air of confidence and with plenty of balls to face and only 73 runs to win. Padwick was early to go after only the 3rd ball of the innings when the wicket-keeper whipped off the bails as he'd wandered halfway down the pitch and missed a sitter to the leg side. An easy dismissal for the man behind the stumps. This brought the Tracy Pearl to the crease and enabled Padwick now to watch and enjoy Fisher's innings of batting for 11 overs in the glorious sunshine for his eventual 10 runs. Until falling for the slower ball from Shiv Nand. With more solid batting from the middle order, the 75 runs were knocked off to secure the win for the Phoenix 11. So with one trophy back in the cabinet, it was another trophy that we played for on the 7th of July against the Hamians. A special evening for the Old Nottinghamians in memory of another ON stalwart, as you've heard, one of the real characters, Brian Ford. And with a 6 o'clock start for the match, the crowds were gathering early from 5:15. To secure spaces, I'm sure on the parking spaces close to the clubhouse steps, because those steps are a bugger when you get to the age of 70, 80, and in some cases 88 years old. So wonderful to see the great and the good of Old Nottinghamian society, who are making the effort to acknowledge the inspiration and guidance to the society of Brian Ford over many, many years. And just looking around the room before the match, with 80 guests and players, one could sense the history and camaraderie that our society is built around. And with many of Brian's peers taking their seats with a pint in hand for the opening word from Brian's son, Chris, who's here this evening, who was making the dedication of the memorial clock that has been secured to the front of the clubhouse, overlooking the square and the rugby pitches for all those taking part in sport down here to watch Father Time pass by. Chris also excited the players gathered with the news that a new cup was being proffered by the Ford family in memory of Brian in the manner of a Player of the Match trophy, which would be chosen by one of the impartial umpires of the match. That's right, the impartial umpire, Chris Ford. And after Chris, it was time for another ON stalwart, Simon Jackson, again here this evening, to say a few words about Brian and also to bring in some appropriate highbrow verse from none other than Sir Henry Newbolt's pen. There's a breathless hush in the close tonight. 10 to make and the match to win. A bumping pitch and a blinding light. An hour to play and the last man in. And it's not for the sake of a ribboned coat or the selfish hope of a season's fame, but his captain's hand on his shoulder smote. Play up, and play the game. What that's telling you really is when you play down here, play to the spirit of the game and the camaraderie of the people you're playing with. So with those rallying words echoing around the clubhouse, it was now time for Mrs. Ford to perform the unveiling of the clock to rapturous applause from the gathered ensemble. The words of the young Ford seem to have fallen on deaf ears, as there were only 92 runs on the board after the Phoenix 11 batting performance. And it looked like the Martin Wynne-Jones Trophy might be going to the chunky rugby chaps. It was at this point that Kareem was called off early and wasn't able to take place in the second half of the innings. So it would need a phenomenal bowling performance by the Phoenix 11 to hold the rampant Hamians at bay. It was with a swagger of confidence Andy Carey and James Toon took to the crease for the rugby boys, and the debacle and the collapse was on its way, with the Hamians being skittled out for only 63, the Martin Wynne-Jones Trophy back in the cabinet. And for this evening, it is clearly on display on the bar. Our first fixture against Trent Bridge 11 was a reminder that we are not the complete cricket 11, having added a creditable score of 162 after their 20 overs. The challenge was on to see if your Phoenix 11 could get anywhere near it. Alas, we only returned 127 runs. The match was lost, but not to worry. The post-match pizza arrived at 8:30, and with beer in hand, the world was good, as we showed the perfect hospitality to our new guests, most of whom had never visited Adbolton Lane before, and we vowed to make a similar fixture again next season. And our final match of the season was a rematch against the Robin Hood 11. We posted a creditable 121. However, these runs were soon knocked off by our guests and completed our seasons. We played 5, won 2, lost 3. But there is always more to talk about than just those statistics. Every team we play against comments the same way. They all enjoy the Phoenix 11 fixture at Adbolton Lane. There are very few better places to be on a Thursday evening than on the balcony just out there at Adbolton. When the evening sunshine beams down from behind the clubhouse, lighting up the pitch and the hills of Carlton and Mapley in front of us, Home Pierpont Water Sports Centre to our right, the sailing boats and yachts on the Trent, and the skyline of the city of Nottingham to our left, all with a beer in hand, it doesn't get much better. So you are all again welcome to join us next season. With thanks to Chris Ford and also to Phil Turton for giving up their time to perform as umpires. And again, each year, it's very important to thank the groundsman, David Vickerstaff, and John Coates for their continued assistance in providing a pitch and a venue when needed. And if there is a scorer out there who hung up their pencils and rubbers oh so many years ago who wishes to join the throng of helpers and to score our matches next season, please contact me. I'm also grateful to those 33 players that ran over the white line for your Phoenix 11. They have all made an individual impact at Adbolton this year, and my efforts go in vain without all of your support. So thank you, gentlemen, for all of those that have played. And that is the end of your report this year.
Thank you, Jonathan. Very good. Next, I have the Dame Agnes Mellors Charity. Chris.
Well, Mr. President and fellow ONs, I'm conscious of the fact that actually we have a number of current and past trustees for the charity here tonight. But I'm also conscious that there might be some in tonight's audience and maybe some busy on YouTube who actually aren't familiar with our charity and what we do. So with this in mind, I thought it might be worth just a quick recap. On the 400th anniversary of the school, the pupils decided that they'd mark the event by raising funds to help youngsters in the locality. They were youngsters who would be less fortunate than themselves. Funds were raised and a plot of land was purchased in Hyson Green. A building was then constructed on the site in which a youth club ran for many years. And amongst others, Gary, who's here tonight, I think actually taught on occasions in that building. The building was sold some time ago and the funds were then invested, and those are the funds which are the primary source of our income today. The objects of our charity are to support young people under the age of 18 years in the city of Nottingham by providing assistance with education, recreation and the relief of poverty. And it's an unfortunate fact that the need for help in these areas is as great as ever. Applications for financial assistance come from a variety of groups and organisations. Such projects include trips and the purchase of kit and equipment for schools and youth clubs, and also breakfast clubs. We've got two principal challenges today. We need to generate sufficient income in a period of poor investment returns, and we need to maintain a sufficient profile to attract applications. We always want to do more, but the first thing that we need are the funds to realise our ambitions. And we've therefore decided to try and be a little more proactive in our fundraising. This was an aspiration that I shared with you last year, and while it's easy to identify the aspiration, it's much more difficult to realise it. However, I'm very pleased to inform you that we were delighted to welcome Kamala Newton and Sam Ellis to the Board of Trustees earlier this year. As many will know, they both work in the development office at school. And together they bring a skill set which we didn't previously have. And they also have a unique knowledge of the school. I must stress that, as with all the trustees, the work they do for us is undertaken in their own time, as it is with all the trustees. With their help, we hope to bring some structure, planning and expertise to our fundraising. I'm also pleased to announce that Mark Shardlow is joining the board. He may be known to some of you. He left the school in 1980. You'll probably have seen him on local TV or heard him on the radio. He's an experienced journalist with an extensive media knowledge, and he'll help us with our communication strategy. With these people on board augmenting our already considerable expertise, we hope that we might be able to conduct focused external fundraising in order to further our aims. The second challenge I mentioned is attracting appropriate applications. In the past, we've waited for applicants to come to us. However, during the pandemic, many of the historic ties that we'd established with various organisations had loosened. And we're therefore trying to identify and approach potential recipients with the offer of financial support. It has to be said that in these straitened times, an offer of money out of the blue from an unknown person representing an unknown organisation is often received with a mixture of disbelief and suspicion. However, we were able to help the Henry Whipple Primary School in Bestwood with breakfast club provision as a result of doing precisely this. And we intend to repeat the exercise as the year goes through. However, we're not currently considering only one-off grants, but in appropriate cases, we're intending to work with applicants over a period of time to provide consistent and regular support, which will help with their forward planning. This idea is currently being piloted with a youth group in Bulwell called Helping Kids Achieve, which I also mentioned last year. They provide sport sessions for youngsters in Bulwell in an attempt to get them off the street, and it's therefore exactly the type of organisation we want to help. This year we've given over £14,000 in grants to various projects, and the ones that we've helped have included school trips arranged by Mellors Primary School, the Crabtree Farm School in Bulwell and Berridge School. We've also provided funds for residential holidays provided by the Stathen Children's Holiday Fund, and we've provided support for the Hope Church. As I mentioned earlier, breakfast provision at Henry Whipple School in Bestwood has also been supplied, as has the rental of a sports hall and subsidising the cost of sports coaches for helping kids achieve. In addition, we've also helped the 51st Nottingham Guides. Finally, thanks are due to the headmaster for facilitating the introduction of Kamala and for Sam, and for introducing them to the board, and for allowing us to meet at school, and for providing the tea and coffee and biscuits, which keep us going while we are there. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Chris. The Dame Agnes Mellors Lodge report. Unfortunately, Phil Lovett has sent his apologies, but I have a report to briefly read out. A successful year was had by the Lodge, led by James Roy's ON, with some excellent ceremonies carried out. Martin Cox was installed as Worshipful Master of the Lodge by James Roy's in March, with the Provincial Grand Master for Nottinghamshire in attendance. Martin attended the Minster School and remembers with fondness his battles with NHS on the rugby pitch. The Lodge has welcomed 3 joining members over the past 18 months, one of whom is an ON joining from a Cheshire Lodge. The Lodge has welcomed 2 new members in the last year and looks forward to receiving 2 more between December 23 and February 24. The Lodge is in good health, but no room for complacency. Sadly, 2 Lodge members with a combined service of more than 100 years have died this year, both in August. Worshipful Brother David Lovett and Worshipful Brother Chris Kent. Both David and Chris were, of course, ONs and both Grand Lodge officers. Their combined experience and knowledge will be missed, but their next generation of younger Masons in their 30s and 40s are already in place, and they have picked up the leadership baton enthusiastically. The season commenced in October and has been busy with 2 excellent ceremonies already. The Lodge looks forward to a December 23 and February 24 initiation of the 2 new candidates, both men in their early 40s who have been introduced to the Lodge through the successful provincial membership scheme. The Lodge has arguably, somewhat belatedly, joined the Federation of School Lodges this year and looks forward to visiting the other East Midlands members, such as Old Worksopians, Fons Vitae from Trent College, and Old Denstonians, all names that will resonate with the sportsmen amongst us. That is the report of the Lodge. Old Nottingham's War Memorial Trust. Understand?
Yeah, Chris Freeston's unable to attend today, so he's passed this report that I'll read out for the meeting. So the Old Nottinghamians War Memorial Trust provides support for pupils of the school who have significant financial hardship. Grants are generally made to assist the pupils, both boys and girls, with suitable uniform during their time at the school, but also to cover one-off special need requests, such as music lessons, sports trips, etc. The Trust has a long-standing connection with the ON Society, and the ON President has traditionally attended the annual trustee meetings. Unfortunately, neither the President nor the Deputy President were able to attend the most recent meeting in May 2023 due to prior commitments. The ON Society made a generous donation of £3,000 to the Trust in 2023. The Trust was able to support 3 pupils this year. This is in keeping with the Trust's decision last year to try to support 3 pupils where possible and to provide exceptional grants where appropriate, as we've done in the past. The Trust is heavily reliant on the generous contributions that have historically been made by the ON Society and is very appreciative of the Society's continued support.
Thank you, Dave. I have a note on the agenda just to record a vote of thanks to Charles Powell, who is retired after more than 10 years service as Secretary of the War Memorial Trust. So that will be recorded in the minutes. Item 8 on the agenda, nearly there now, is to approve grants for 2023-24. And I think Tony has put his hand up and wants a quick word. Do you want to do that before we do that? Please.
Mr. President, the Quincentenary Fund isn't that well known. It was something that was set up by me when, on the occasion of the 500th anniversary. As it occurred to me that there was no provision in the ON Society to assist ONs as opposed to beneficiaries at school or whatever. And the idea was, when I read from the rubric, the aim of the fund is to provide grants to society members to assist with the cost of further higher or tertiary, including professional or technical education, where otherwise the opportunity to pursue such education or training might be denied on financial grounds. So whilst I support and have supported the donation to the War Memorial Trust for Boys at School, there still remains very little that might be called upon by ONs experiencing student loans or whatever, and debt to get on the further or higher education ladder. And I would like to think that it's not forgotten and that where possible, publicity could be given to ONs. And it's a pity that Julian isn't here because he might be able to tell me what he could do as the secretary. And it seems to me that whilst all the boys at school won't receive the bursaries, once they leave, they're left high and dry. So they might be looking for further assistance once they've left. So all I would ask is that while voting in favour of the further donation, I wouldn't like to think that the Quincentenary Fund would be exhausted or forgotten about in the future.
Thank you for your comments, Tony. Yes, I think that at the AGM last year, it was agreed that where the amount that was budgeted for the Quincentenary Fund wasn't taken up, that we would then make an increased donation to the War Memorial Trust. And I think that's basically what we're proposing today, because the 3,000 is 1,000 more than we would normally give to the War Memorial Trust. Because we haven't had any takers for the Quincentenary Fund for several years. Well, it is. I mean, I think we've tried before, but it's difficult probably to get to the people we need to get to. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think certainly now that can be done because, and that will be appreciated, because I think Tony is right. We need to be spreading it a little bit more evenly. So we are proposing, in addition to the 3,000 to the War Memorial Trust, that we give 1,000 to this Quincentenary Fund, or allocate that anyway this year, so that we are maintaining the level in that fund. But then I think if we're moving forward, we'll try to use the school to try and publicise that a little bit more. So are there any other comments on the proposed grant of 3,000 to the War Memorial Trust? No. Can I therefore put that to the vote? All those in favour? Any against? Thank you very much. We also have proposed a budget figure of 1,000 for grants from the Quincentenary Fund for 2023-24. If we can get anybody to apply. So all those in favour of that? Any against? Thank you. The final item on as this part of the agenda is that I will ask Simon Jackson if he would propose a grant for Ad Bolton.
Thank you, President. In support of this application for funding, I'd like to just give you a certain amount of background. The school governors gave £5,000 to the Society in 1965 for the development of Ad Bolton and purchase of the freehold for the benefit of society and user clubs from excess funds generated by the 450th anniversary appeal in 1963. Our trustees of the 450th Anniversary Trust own the Ad Bolton ground and buildings on behalf of the society, according to the 1965 deed. The Sports and Social Club was set up here as a separate entity for two main reasons. First of all, to comply with the requirements of the 1964 Licensing Act, and secondly, from a more pragmatic point of view, to be slightly at arm's length from the society, so that the society would not be impacted if the Ad Bolton project were to fail. The Ground Management Committee, the GMC of the Sports and Social Club, administers the assets here for the benefit of society members, the user clubs, and their guests. The principle of financial support by the Society for the Sports and Social Club's GMC was established in 1980, even before this pavilion was opened, and was recorded in the minutes of the Society's meetings, which I know from first-hand knowledge because I wrote many of them, and has various taken the form of interest-free loans, many of which were later written off, and since 1988, an annual grant, which equated to approximately 1.25% of the Society's reported assets. Effectively, at the time, £500 a year. This grant was suspended in 2012 as a consequence of the turmoil, which we're all familiar with, which engulfed the Society. Now that the Society is sailing in calmer waters and has an improved relationship with our school, it is my view as a trustee and a member of the current GMC that the annual grant should be reintroduced at the rate of 1.25% of the Society's assets. Clearly, we have no accounts for the current year, but I do believe that this figure would be between £2,000 and £2,500 per annum, which I would hope to be endorsed by this meeting and the Society's new committee. I would also propose that this arrangement be reviewed every 5 years for the members' comfort. In the light of the conversation I've had with our secretary, I am quite willing to put my name to the proposal that this should, for this year, be £2,000 and be endorsed by this committee and by this meeting and taken forward to the Society committee meeting in the new year.
Thank you, Simon. Do we have any comments on that proposal? Any views or anything else, whether positive or negative? I think from my personal view is that I certainly think the Society should be doing what it can to support the Sports and Social Club. Here at Ad Bolton, we use the facilities for the cricket and various other things, and it would be good to give something back. I know there's a financial situation, but assuming that our total that we're giving away is probably what 5,000 we're just talking about at the moment, plus any costs involved in subsidising various things. It's probably not much more than we're earning in income, and I am a little bit of the view that we've got £180,000 in assets, and £2,000 a year would last us those assets would last 90 years, even if we started eating into them a little bit. So I would certainly support the proposal. Does anybody else have any comment? Yeah, I would think so too, particularly with higher interest rates that we're enjoying at the moment. Doug? Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah, I think what we could do just for this meeting is say that this meeting would approve the grant of £2,000 for this current coming year, and then ask the committee to sit down and work it out and look at the financial situation, and then review, at the next committee meeting or whatever, and then come back to the meeting next year and formalise something if we feel that's the best way to do it. Yeah. That's what I would probably suggest, because obviously the proposal's only just been put to the meeting. And so I would propose that we accept that for this year and then look at it again in committee and decide on the best way forward.
Probably the GMC has pretty much been self-sufficient for the last 11 years. What's caused things to change now that an ongoing grant is required? Has something changed in the financial situation, or is it capital expenditure? Right. Okay. I hear what you're saying. Like Jeff, I'm also believe that we should support at Bolton Lane. It's a huge asset for the society. We need to make sure it's maintained for future generations of ONs. What I will say, playing devil's advocate to a degree, is that back in the time when the original grant was agreed, there was ongoing income via membership subscriptions by the school at that time. And obviously at the present time, there is no subscriptions, and therefore we have no other form of income currently other than the return from the income from Brewing Dolphin, which means that effectively anything derived from the portfolio comes into our account to be used, but mainly for the donations that we make, along with some expenses for organising the events that we do. And therefore, pretty much the society is in a situation where the income pretty much gets spent. I'm aware that those assets that we have with Brewing Dolphin derive that income along with some donations. So, it's the fact that if we are in a situation where going forward we're making additional donations to the GMC as well, it could be a situation where our expenditure, if you like, exceeds the income that we're receiving, which will diminish those investments effectively. So that's the financial situation as it is. I'm fully in support that we need to do something to help. But I agree, it's something that the two committees need to sit down and agree between themselves. But certainly for this year, I think we'd put it to the vote and see if we can agree that 2,000 is donated in the forthcoming year, and then discuss it further between the two committees. Okay. No, I understand. And those things are important to be taken into context so that we can understand fully the position.
Any other comment before we put it to the vote? No, well, I therefore propose that we vote to approve a grant of £2,000 for this current coming year, and then the committee will look at formalising that for the future. So all those in favour? Any against? That's obviously carried unless we have a lot on live stream who don't agree with that. Yeah, which is difficult. We'll assume that's approved anyway. Final item, any other business? I'm not aware of any other business. It should have been notified to the secretary if we had any. So I think all that remains for me to do is thank you all for coming. A thanks to Dave and Matt for putting on the technology to allow us to live stream. Hopefully one or two people have been watching us, and 8 altogether. Oh, well, that's not too bad. It's more than last year. 800. So thank you all very much. A safe journey home to all of you, and we'll see you again next year, hopefully, if not before.